The flowers were still fresh on the casket when my brother said my name. Not quietly, he said it the way you throw a plate. 40 relatives turned toward me at once. He said the last hard year was my fault, that I let our mother slip away while I looked elsewhere. The heat climbed my neck. Every eye waited for me to break. Stoicism will not promise that room gets easier. It offers one thing, a place to stand. Here is what I could not see that night. The loudest voice in a grieving room is rarely about the person it names. My brother was not measuring me. He was setting down something too heavy to hold alone. Guilt always needs somewhere to land. Have you ever noticed it tends to find the quietest person in the room? That night, that person was me. For a year, my brother had lived 3 states away. Phone calls he let ring out. A mother who asked for him and reached voicemail instead. What he could not say out loud was that he had not been there. So he said the opposite, loudly, and aimed it at me. An accusation is often a confession wearing someone else's name. I want to be careful here. This is not about feeling superior to a grieving man. It is a way to stay on your feet while he comes apart in the open. Public shame is almost always staged for an audience. The person needs witnesses. A private doubt, carried alone, feels unbearable. So they say it loud enough to drown their own doubt out. So I stopped defending. I stepped back inside myself and watched. Not a son on trial. A man in a room watching another man drown. From that half step back, the whole room changed. I stopped hearing a verdict. I started seeing a performance instead. His hands were shaking. His voice pitched too high for the words. He kept glancing at our aunt, checking if it landed. A man certain of his case does not scan the faces around him. He was not sure. He was hoping. This is the first thing the Stoics ask you to separate. What is actually happening, and the story being shouted on top of it. What was happening was grief, and a brother who could not carry his share of it. The story was that I had failed our mother. 2 different things. Only one of them was true. It was not the loud one. I did not know any of this in the moment. My body wanted to shout back, to hand the shame straight back to him. Everything in me leaned toward the fight. What saved that night was not a clever answer. It was 3 seconds of saying nothing. That silence did more than any sentence could. The next breath is where the whole thing is won or lost. When someone turns on you in front of a crowd, an old part of your brain reads it as danger. Heart first, thought later. It floods you before a single clear idea can arrive. The Stoics built their whole practice inside that gap between the event and your reaction. So I did the one thing I could still control. I put my attention on my feet, the cold floor through my shoes. The weight of my own body holding itself up. I named 3 things I could actually see in the room. The candle, the wood grain of the pew, her photograph in its frame. Marcus Aurelius wrote a version of this to himself. Alone at night. You hold power over your own mind, he said, not over outside events. Find that line, and you find your footing. He was not writing theory for a lecture hall. He wrote it as a tired man reminding himself what he could still reach when the rest was noise. Then I gave him nothing, no answer, no flinch, just 3 full seconds of silence, long enough to hear the candle flame breathe. Silence does something an argument never can. It leaves the last words hanging in the air, and they belong only to him. His accusation had nowhere to go, no pushback to feed on. The room was now hearing what he had said. Not my defense. He had to stand inside his own sentence and feel the weight of it. There were no cameras in that room, but a family keeps its own kind of record. Years from now, no one quotes the exact words. They remember who stayed steady and who came undone. How you stood on the hardest day becomes the story they keep. In a family, calm is the version that lasts. I need to be honest about the cost. Those 3 seconds felt like drowning. Every nerve in me wanted to shout the truth back. Staying silent looked from the inside like losing. Is it worth swallowing that much to keep your face still? On that day, standing beside her casket, it was. The pause is not the whole answer. It only buys you a small room to stand in. What you do with that room is the real work. A silence with nothing behind it is only fear holding its breath. The Stoics filled it with something solid. A wall built long before the attack ever came, built on the inside. The wall has a single gate. Everything the Stoics teach runs through it. Some things are mine, some things are not. My choices, my judgments, the way I carry myself, those are mine. What my brother believed about me was not. It never was. It lived entirely on his side of the gate. Epictetus put it in one line. It may be the most useful sentence the Stoics ever wrote. Some things are up to us, and some are not. Up to us are our own judgments and actions. Not up to us are our bodies, our names, the opinions of others. He would know. He was born a slave, and the old accounts say he walked with a limp his whole life. Here is where most of us get trapped. We hand our worth to the room and let the room take a vote on it. If they clap, we feel good. If they turn, we feel worthless. That is a life lived on loan. Your reputation is a picture other people paint of you, on their own wall, with their own fears mixed into the paint. What they cannot paint over is the thing you actually did. Whether I sat with my mother through the long nights was already settled. His speech could not add to it or take from it. The facts of a life do not wait for a vote. They already happened in rooms no one was watching. So I heard his words as what they physically were. Air pushed into shapes. Sound crossing a room and then gone. Loud and already fading before it reached me. This is an old Stoic exercise. Strip the event down to its bare parts before your fear dresses it up in something worse. Not, my brother has destroyed me in front of everyone. Instead, a man is making sounds. Faces are turning. My chest feels tight. Each piece, on its own, is survivable. It is the story stacked on top that crushes you. But the fortress is not a place to hide from every hard word. That is the mistake proud people make behind their walls. somewhere inside his cruelty, there might be one true thing. Maybe I had pulled away in that last year. The Stoic keeps a gate, not a sealed wall. You let the truth in. You leave the venom sitting at the door. The sorting takes a cool head, which is exactly why the pause comes first. Ask one plain question of the whole attack. Is there anything here I can use to become better? If yes, keep it, no matter how ugly the wrapping. If no, let it fall. The delivery was his to answer for. The lesson, if any, was mine. By the time I raised my eyes again, something had settled. Not victory, just ground under my feet. The wall was not made of coldness. It was made of knowing what was mine and what was only weather passing through. And weather, however loud, does not get a vote on who you are. When I finally spoke, I kept my voice lower than the room expected. No heat in it. I did not defend myself. I stated one plain fact. I was here every night this last month. The hospice nurses know my face by now. Then I stopped. Facts do not need volume. They only need to be said once clearly. You could feel the gap open in the room. His voice had been huge. The fact was small, quiet, and easy to check. Emotion had filled the space where evidence should have been. One calm sentence set beside. A loud accusation changes the room. Everyone could suddenly see the size of the gap. The room went still, the way it does when a lie loses its footing. Seneca wrote a whole book on anger. His plainest advice was to delay it. Anger, he said, feeds on speed. Give it a pause, and it begins to look foolish, even to the angry man himself. I did not need to expose him. His own raised voice, standing next to my quiet one, did that on its own. I watched it move across their faces. An uncle looked down at the floor. My cousin reached over and touched my brother's arm. The way you steady someone who has gone too far. No one had to take a side out loud. The room simply recalculated. It did so in the silence I had left open for it. But I did not want to win the room. Winning meant beating my brother over our mother's coffin. What kind of victory is that? So I turned the room somewhere better. I looked at the coffin, not at him. I said the only thing that mattered. She would have hated this, the two of us shouting over her. Let us give her one clean hour. That did more than any defense. It reminded everyone why we were actually there. That is the quiet authority the Stoics point to. Not the loudest person, not the one who wins the argument. The one still pointing at what matters when everyone else has forgotten it in the heat of the moment. In a room coming apart, that person becomes the center of gravity. People drift toward it like cold hands toward a fire. I want to be clear about why this worked. Not because I performed calm well in front of an audience. It worked because the calm was real, resting on something true underneath. You cannot fake this for very long. A staged serenity cracks the second. A second blow lands, built before the day you need it, or it is a mask. The scene ended with no winner declared. My brother sat down. Someone finally started the eulogy for our mother. But something had shifted that would outlast the day. One loud minute, writes itself into years of how people see you. What comes after the minute matters more than the minute. That is where the real work waits. The funeral ended. The story did not. In the weeks after, part of me wanted to call every relative and set the record straight. To send the long message with all the dates and the proof lined up. I did none of it. A truth you have to shout to defend starts to sound like a truth you are unsure of. Instead, I let the facts do the slow work that facts do. The nurses remembered me. The neighbor who saw my car remembered too. My mother's last note, in her own hand, had my name in it. None of that needed my voice. The truth was already written where his voice could never reach, in her handwriting, in my name on her final note. Something else happened that I did not plan. The story of that day got told, but not the way he wanted it told. People remembered which brother kept his dignity beside the coffin. A reputation is the sum of your hardest moments. Build enough of those, and the next attack lands on you like a stone thrown at a stone wall. That is the strange arithmetic of it. Try to shame a person who will not be shaken, and the shame does not stick to them. It rolls back and settles on the one who threw it. Within a year, people winced at his outburst. Not at my silence. The stone had found its way back home. Marcus Aurelius wrote it best. The best revenge is not to become like the one who wronged you. I would not carry his cruelty out of that room. The last piece is the hardest and the most freeing. Once you own your piece, you get to decide who gets access to it. I did not cut my brother off in anger, but I stopped handing him the key to my calm. So I asked the quiet question, who am I still letting hold the key to my own peace? Emotional sovereignty is not going cold. It is the freedom to stop auditioning for people who were never going to clap. My energy went back where it belonged, to my own children, to the work in front of me, to becoming someone my mother would still recognize, not a bigger stage, a quieter, truer life. None of this arrived that same afternoon. For months I still woke up angry at 3:00 a.m., arguing with him in my head. The fortress is not a feeling. It is a practice you return to on the days it fails you. Stoicism did not erase the hurt. It gave the hurt a smaller room and kept the door in my hand. So this is what he never understood, standing over me that day. He thought volume was power itself. But the loudest person in the room is usually the one most afraid of it. Real authority made no sound. It stood there, unmoved, and let the truth take its time. That calm cannot be shouted down. Maybe you are standing in your own version of that room right now. A brother, a father, an old friend who chose a crowd. It is a particular kind of ache when the blow comes from your own blood in front of everyone. The people who know exactly where you are soft are the ones who can aim the best. The Stoics would not tell you it does not hurt. That would be a lie, and they did not deal in comfortable lies. They would tell you the hurt and your character are two different things. One is weather, one is the mountain. Weather can batter a mountain for 1,000 years and never once move it from where it stands. So the next time someone shouts your name to bury their own failure, you do not have to shrink. You hold still. The silence does the rest. If someone you love is standing in that room today, sending this to them may matter more than any advice you could give. Not to fix their pain, just so they know the silence is a choice and the fortress can be built. That is all this channel is, one hard, true thing at a time. Memento mori. We will meet here again.